Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us today on our Little Italy of LA podcast. Joining me is Filippo Voltaggio. Thank you so much for being here, Filippo.
Thank you for having me, Deborah. I'm happy to be here.
I love the backdrop. Where are you?
Uh,
Or what's
So,
behind you?
you know, I realize my hair looks funny with this backdrop, but I have sacrificed the look to bring the world Mazzara del Vallo, specifically il lungomare. So, Mazzara del Vallo is where my parents were born in Sicily, and il lungomare simply means well, it's like the water walk, the boardwalk, the walkway of the
It's
water.
lovely. And by the way, your hair looks fabulous, darling. I think you look terrific. You do.
And you look terrific too.
Oh, thank you. Now, you're kind of tough to sort of introduce because when you look at your bio, it just keeps growing and growing and growing. You've done a lot of things in your young life, Filippo, but I'll give it a crack. Okay. At the moment, you are an author, you are an entertainer, you are a life coach, but you've done so much, including appearing before presidents. You've worked for a Fortune 500 company. You've been on PBS programs. You've had your own shows. How does one introduce you except to say, we'll go through as much as we can? Um, but tell me a little about you as a kid, because what I love is you once said in school when they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? You said, I want to be Filippo, right?
Just like that, Deborah.
Just like
Just
that.
like
And that, and that's what you've done, right? You are Filippo. So
I,
start young. Like,
y-
what was it that was going on there where that's how you answered?
I love that we have you on camera saying that way, because there are so many people that go around making fun in a lovely way, saying, I am Filippo. And at first I would say, no, I am Filippo. But they kept saying it. And I thought, oh, this is bringing them joy for some reason. So let them. And now, and it brings me joy to see them enjoying the fact that I say I am Filippo, because I ever since I was a child, you're right. They would line us up. My family actually would line us up, kids, and ask us, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And they would always make me laugh because they knew that I would be funny to them. And so I'd get up. They thought I didn't understand the question, and they were hoping I'd grow up to understand the question. Well, I think I understood it as a kid. So they'd say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And who'd say, I want to be president, or I want to be doctor, I want to be, and they'd say, oh, good for you, good for you. And then they'd get to me, who do you want to be when you grow up? And I'd say, I want to be Filippo. And so they'd laugh and they'd say, no, you are Filippo. You have to be something else. I'm like, I don't want to be anything else. I want to be Filippo. And I never gave an answer other than that. And I realized, of all the kids that I remember, brothers and sisters and cousins, um, I was the only one that became what I said I was going to become.
I kind of get that, Filippo. I had a similar situation, which I'm not going to talk about, but
Uh,
I'm not, I'll tell you off camera. I stood up on a school bus and I declared what I wanted to be. Same thing. Everybody wanted to be a teacher, a fire person, which by the way is very noble. It just wasn't what I had planned. So I kind of get that, right? And everybody would just stand there and be like, what? So I understand, but you followed your heart to be Filippo. Let's talk a little bit about, let's cut a little bit to the, go to the future a little. You studied business and you ended up working in a Fortune 500 company, right? And very successful, I might add. And then you decided to leave that, right? How was that?
it was the top third company in the world, I think, at the time when I was working for them. And so I got a real sense of what business culture was. And I have to say, my parents were very proud. I was very proud. I was excited. It was interesting, and I did well, and I was being promoted, and all was good, except I was not happy. Uh,
Mm.
and I wow, who is that what you just did?
No, no, you know what? I get it. It's like you were sort of having the good old career and to make everyone else happy in a way. They were proud of you, and that's a good thing. But inside, you're thinking, this is not what I want, right?
I bought one house, I bought another house, I had a nice car. I mean, it's like, and then I started buying jewelry, and then I'm buying gifts, and I'm like, where does this end exactly? Like, where do we go from here? So
Right.
interestingly enough, I started. I left, which was very very hard to do because again, coming from this beautiful place and and going to America, my parents didn't know what it would be like, and they worked hard, they struggled, they did very well for themselves, and so they wanted their kids to do better. So my father used to say, "There are so many singers in that town in the street, and you want to be a singer." And it wasn't just that I wanted to be a singer, Deborah. It's kind of like you said, at the moment you are this this and this, and at that moment I wanted to experience that. I wanted to experience what it would be like to sing and share my joy, my songs, with an audience. And I did it, and I still do it, and I love doing it. And at the moment there are other things that are engaging me as well.
Now, you used to enjoy music quite a bit with your grandmother, I believe, right? As a little kid?
With as many people as I could. There were a lot of music people in my life growing up, but my grandmother used to play the tambourine, and
Oh,
so
nice.
I, yeah, and it would actually be a song. Like I never learned to play it like she did. My one of my brothers did, and it's so much fun to listen to it. But it of course has a rhythm, but there's music to it, and you can dance to her playing. It's not just making a beat. So in any event, little things like that that come from our culture, especially musically. My father was a singer. He taught me. Well, actually, if I could share, this is kind of bringing me back to that moment. My father shared one moment that really stuck with me. That he said he took me to the ocean to where we grew up here in America, and I
Mhm.
remember I was holding his hand and he was looking out at the ocean and it was getting dark and he looked up at the moon and he said, "You see that moon?" He said, "That moon is here right now, but it's going to travel all the way to your grandmother's house in Sicily.
Oh,
And
wow.
tomorrow night, your grandmother will be seeing this moon. We are connected," he says. "Only it's interesting, in Sicily, we sing about the moon and we sing about this ocean and we sing about our land." And he said, for example, you like to sing. I know. He wasn't thrilled about that, but he did say, you like to sing. He says, when you sing a song like the one about the man sitting on the boat in the middle of the Bay of Naples, looking at his town of Santa Lucia, he is singing about the love he has for his home and the ocean and the moon. So when you sing Santa Lucia, take people there with you.
Wow. You just took me there. I have to tell you, besides that, your voice is so deep and it resonates. And
Grazie.
that's beautiful. That's a beautiful visual, Filippo. That's beautiful. So that's what you did.
And that's what I did. It's a special when I've done that in shows or it's a special moment, and it's a special moment for me too. I get goosebumps because I was in Monterey, California. My grandmother was in Mazzara del Vallo, Sicily. But on some level, we were connected by the moon. We were connected by the ocean. We were connected by the love of not only each other but of our planet.
Hmm. So you left the world of business and you began a singing career. What did that look like? Where did you go? What kind of songs did you sing?
I love how you said that because I left the world of business, which is really interesting because I went into the world of a musician. And so all the
Mm,
musicians I knew personally uh, didn't make money, didn't have, like, they were struggling and all of that. And it wasn't until years later when I was not making money singing and I was struggling and all that and thinking, wait a minute, I'm a businessman too. It's not just that now I'm a singer. It's like I am all of this. And
that's right.
bring back the business into the singing. These people, God love them, they don't have the education that you have, or they didn't work for a large company. You know how to do this, but in our minds, we segregate, we separate. And so that's why when I say I am Filippo, yes, I work for that company. Yeah, you smiled when I said that. Yes, I work for that company. Yes, I am a life coach. Yes, I am an author, but I am all of that
You're
combined.
all of it.
And
Yeah,
there's
but
and there's yeah.
yeah, but what I meant is like you're not going to work every day for the Fortune 500 company. You brought those skills with you as a musician, which was great, and you just continue to build and build. But as you were singing,
Yeah.
where were you doing that? Were you doing that all over,
All
wherever?
over. Well,
Yeah.
the first thing that I really wanted to do was sing Santa Lucia. I mean, that's how deep this was. I grew up listening to Italian music, eating Italian food. I thought we were in Italy in the sense that, as a little kid, we didn't go out much. We didn't know the neighbors because we were new in America. And so and we went to the Italian church and the Italian store, and they spoke Italian. So it wasn't until really I went to kindergarten and everybody else was speaking a different language, and I would come home and I would say, "Mama, I don't understand them," and she'd say, "Tu sei siciliano, ma sei americano puro," and she'd say, "You're Sicilian, but you're also American, so you'll learn,
Ah,
you'll understand, you'll be able to."
so you primarily spoke Italian in your household as a little
Only.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they sent you to school not knowing too much English. That's tough, but you learned obviously, right?
It's pretty good, my
Very
English.
good. Very good. So again, you were singing all over. Tell me a little bit about the career. Where did it take you? Who did you meet? The singing career.
So it's just started with the Italian people because uh, I figured they would get it. And so, like, these are
Mm,
Italian songs and they get it. And this was just before Bocelli and just before all of these Italian singers really became popular in America, right? So I was at that burgeoning moment in our history with Italian music. And and there was a time prior when Italian music was nice and big, the Sinatra and Dean Martin and all that. But I got to sing at a lot of Italian festivals and with a lot of Italian organizations, including the National Italian American Foundation, who is in part responsible for Marcella Tyler, in part for responsible for introducing us. So I got to meet
wonderful.
a lot of special people, celebrities, multimillionaires, billionaires, and everybody in between. Uh, and uh, it was really really special because everybody had a story, and
Mm,
everybody wanted to share that story with me because I was sharing stories with them. So they'd say, me too. And I have to say about this collective that we're all like one planet and one. So I thought Italians would get it. They'd get my stories growing up Italian American. They'd understand, right? And then I started expanding, and I started having more Jewish audiences because I got a Jewish agent at one point, and then I had this American agent who put me on, didn't get it, but put me on all kinds of different stages. But I was the one that didn't get it. That at one point, this woman who was from China came up to me and she said, in her heavy accent, she was telling me the same thing happened to me. And I thought, how could the same thing happen to her? That there's no way that these Italian words are the same words that there's no, I just couldn't get it. And what she was trying to tell me is, as an immigrant in this country, there are things that all the immigrants have experienced, some worse, some harder, some easier, some more funny. But and we all have a story around that. And
mm.
so that being said, that started connecting me more to people, and then it really started getting exciting.
Yeah. Now you found yourself, you've appeared on PBS. What's incredible to me is Your music has also been in films, right? A Walk in the Clouds with Keanu Reeves, Noise with Tim Robbins. I mean, your career now we're going to see. Wow, look at all the stuff that he's done. So your music has appeared there. You've hosted a radio show, Filippo and the Chef.
Yes.
Current Currently your hit. You're the host of the Life Changes show. What's amazing to me is you got the Call to Service Award from President Obama and a Lifetime Achievement Award for service from President Trump. Can
I
you
know
mind
it's too
telling me?
young, right? Too
No, but
young.
wait. How did all that happen? Especially with two different presidents, two opposing presidents. How did that happen, Filippo?
These have come to me, and so people have said, you know, we like what you do, and we're submitting you for this, and that kind of has been my life. I've strived for certain things, and yet there have been times when people have come to me saying, we want to give you this, or we see you here. And Deborah, you know what I've said? Yeah, right.
Right.
And then the award has come. Or I remember I remember meeting with these agents and this and that and all these suits and people all over. And then at an Italian women's luncheon, all these women were around me after I had sung, and this one woman comes up to me in a cane, hunched over, and she said, "You remind me of Sergio Franchi," and I'm going to introduce you to his wife, Ava Franchi, and I'm going to put you on a stage with the full orchestra. And I said, yeah, right. You know, in my head. And I gave her, and she said, give me your card. And I gave her my card. And I thought, the people in suits haven't been able to do that, you know, but a week later, she called me. She introduced me to Eva Franchi. I ended up a couple months later on a stage with a full orchestra, 6,000 people in the audience, and PBS followed after that, and
So it all started at the women's luncheon with the little lady with the cane, is what you're telling me.
Italian women's luncheon. Yes,
Yep, that you got
yes.
to stick with that, and not the folks in the suits, or both, I suppose. But what an honor to be honored by two different presidents. What was that
Yeah.
experience like?
You know, I like so many other things in my life, that, yeah, right, like, oh well, you know, they don't really know me, you know, they don't. On the one hand, it's like it doesn't go to my head, which is good, I think. And on the other, and I have three hands. On the other hand, on the second hand, I'm thinking, yeah, but there's so much more. And then there's one hand which, um, yeah, like, I don't accept it in the sense that I can do more, or I should have done more. It's not enough. You know, that this isn't worthy of an award, which, if we ever
Mm,
get into it, all of that makes me understand so much of our human condition, because I'm not the only one.
yeah. Tell me a little bit about your songs that appeared in the films that I mentioned, the Keanu Reeves film and the Tim Robbins film. How did that all come about?
You know, it's interesting, with the A Walk in the Clouds, wonderful experience, and Tony and Giovanna De Bona out of San Diego Italians, also, they said, Filippo, there's this part where they need an Italian singer to sing, et cetera, et cetera. And so there was a piano on stage, and there were all these famous actors, and I'm going to stand on stage and sing. And all of a sudden, they ran out of time, so I
Uh-huh.
didn't even make it on the cutting room floor. It never got filmed, and so
Oh no.
so then they ended up needing to film something else, because the sun was coming through, and then they came back and they said, okay, we want a song, but that song won't work anymore. So out of the we came up with "E Kumbari, ci vuoi suonare," and while we sang it, and then they played it for us, we liked it, so we started dancing to it and having fun with it, and they filmed that, and then that ends up in the film, and me singing "E Kumbari" with Giovanna. So, you know, there's that. Then I'm called into a studio by an Italian producer who says we need an Italian song with Italian. And actually, I chose a Sicilian song. They wanted original lyrics. I gave them original lyrics. And then I didn't know if it ever made it in the movie. Nobody told me, as sometimes happens. And my sister calls me one day and she said, "It was you. I heard you singing. My husband and I were watching Noise, and it was you." I'm like, "Oh my God, did it? They used it. They used it."
That's crazy. That is just crazy. That's truly crazy. I mean, did you even expect any of this when you decided to leave, that Fortune 500 company and follow your dream, your love of singing? Did you expect your career to just have a flow like this, which was so just unexpected, right? It almost seems like you show up, you're there, you're talented, and things happen. You think maybe it's because you're sort of I don't know, just a cheerful kind of guy, Filippo, and people want to just do things with you? You think that has something to do with it
Well,
or
thank
for
you for
you?
saying that.
Yeah.
I'd like to see myself now as that. I'm the kind of person that now would like to say thank you for that. I take it as a compliment. I don't think that things have shown up, uh, but I also feel like I've worked really hard for them,
Oh,
and and
definitely.
in and in reality, I have worked hard. I don't have a problem with working hard, but to know that we're already here.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, when you called me the first time when we chatted on the phone, like, I didn't know you from somebody else, but I liked you right away, and it's like, and then when we finally saw each other online here, it was like, we have to hang out together, and we do, and the reason I say that, like, we're already here, like, on the phone, we already know. So if I can accept that even more wonderful things like this and all the things that you mentioned, all of that can happen and will. If I could have fun while I'm also working hard to make sure we're giving quality, and if I could be okay with oh sure, it's going to come, but in the meantime, I just got to do this, as opposed to I got to do this because I got to make it, and if otherwise they won't see me as a singer, or they won't believe I'm a good this or a good. That's the part that I'm, at this moment, working to let go of.
Well, it's interesting because again, I want to go back to you being a little kid when you said, I am Filippo. I'm going to be Filippo, or however you said it. You knew then that there was a lot to you and you weren't just going to do one thing. And I sometimes don't understand so many in our culture in particular. It's like, well, what do you want to be? What do you want to study? I don't know, right?
Mhm.
And I believe in life you evolve, right? Whatever that is, you train yourself and you evolve. And obviously you do too. Um, you've also done television, you've done radio. You currently have a show that's running now too, right? Could you tell us about it?
Mhm. The Life Changes show. Well, actually, Deborah, it's everything that we've talked about.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
each step of the way, that did I know this was going to happen? Maybe, maybe not, but not in this way or what have you. And to be available, to be ready for those kinds of things to happen along the way, to say yes when it's appropriate to say yes, no when it's appropriate to say no. So many of us have had some exciting things happen. So many of us have had illnesses. So many of us have had setbacks. And the thing is, like, here's one thing I like to say in the workshops that I coach, that stem from all of this life which has led us to this conversation. I like to say, almost everybody I know is 99.999% positive. We're not negative people. I think we're positive people. I said, because almost everybody I know is positive, that if we had a
Mm.
million more dollars, our life would be better. If we were a little bit more famous, our life would be better. If we were married to that girl or dating that guy, our life would be better. If we could drive this car, we're all positive about that. But the thing is, having experienced so many people, like I said earlier, from all walks of life in such an intimate way, when they come up and share stories with tears in their eyes, or I have to tell you, you reminded me, they share from in such a deep way. I feel like I've gotten to know people, and I'm also interested in people. I like people, so, and I interview them, right? So, well, just I'll just say that I know the person who has another $1,000,000 or 10 or a billion. I know the person who married that girl and then divorced her, and who
Right.
married that guy, or who got the guy and then can stand him. And then I know all those people who drive that car and they're saying about something else. So
Right. So in your life coaching business, that's sort of what you talk to people about, right? Like I know you're looking over here, you're looking over there, you think you want this, but so you sort of help people get to the point where what? Can you tell me?
one of my sweet spots is the workshop that we're talking about is the recalibration, is to recalibrate what it is that we are. You want to be there. Okay, great. Who are you now? What are
Mm,
you now? Where are you now? And because if you don't know where you are, you don't know if maybe in some cases I've worked with people who are already there, but they don't know it. Like, for example,
mm,
myself as a kid. As a kid, you keep taking me back there, and I love it. I used to see some of these people on TV with orchestra and tuxedos and all of that, and I used to say, "That's what I'm gonna do. That's what I wanna do. That's what" I did that long time before I remembered that I wanted that. Like,
mm.
I'm like, "Oh, yeah. Huh. As a kid, I wanted that. I've had it for several years, and it never dawned on me that I got what I wanted. And
So
so
you help people see that in their lives, right? That's what you do.
that they either have what they wanted, that they've had, that they have, that they can have, but what is it that we have right here, right now? Like, things could be terrible. At the same time, though, we are different. We're not those kids anymore. We're not those young adults. We're who are we right now? Because when we get there, we won't know who we are there either. So let's start
Right.
with here.
And that's what you help us figure all of us figure out as a life coach, right? Because sometimes the word life coach can be very broad. So that someone comes to you and you sort of help them figure out where are you? Where do you want to be? Perhaps you are here now. I like that. By the way, I wanted to also mention to people that you've also written a book. Can you talk to me about the book, please? The little dog that could.
The book is another fine example. I see in the recalibration workshop, we talk about patterns, and here's a pattern. So this dog enters my life. I rescued a dog from the street, and I tried to find the rightful owner. I remember calling a woman who I had just met at the time, and she's now become a dear friend and the producer of the Life Changes show, and so much more, Dorothy Lee Donahue. And I remember she was like a medium at the time, or a spiritual healer, leader. I called her and I said, I got this dog, and I'm trying to find an owner, and I don't know why I'm calling you. And she said, because it's your dog. And I
Mhm.
said, no, it's definitely not my dog. I'm too busy. I was going to be doing an Italian festival in Milwaukee actually real soon. I can't keep a dog where I live. And she says, it's your dog until you learn the lesson. And I said, yeah, right. And so I kept looking for the
Mm.
owner, and then when I couldn't find an owner, I tried to, find it the rightful person to take from there, to take over the dog from there and enjoy it, and and enjoy each other. And when it didn't happen, because I had several false starts, and I would call Dorothy and I'd say, "I found somebody. This is perfect family." It happened to be my family the first time, and she said, "We'll see." And so I
Mm.
drive all the way out to my family and like, here's the dog. It's great. It's beautiful. And she's lovely and special. And they said, oh, but we can't because this just happened. Anyway, long story short, I decided that what if Dorothy's right? What if I'm supposed to learn a lesson? So I decided, let me learn the lesson. And I started to watch the dog and experience the dog. And all of a sudden, I would get into the psyche of the dog. And I was learning things about myself as a human that I never really thought about, because I'm watching the dog saying, "Do I do that? Are we?" So all of this to say, I finally felt like I got all the lessons, and it's finally time.
Mm.
And just as I thought that, something very tragic happened.
Mm.
and it's a difficult part of the story. And I won't go into it, but I can say that the story has a happy ending. The dog lives, and I learn things about myself that I share with the world as often as I can, because these are life lessons that I wish I knew as a kid, or maybe I knew as a kid, but everybody else said I had to be something else.
Hmm. Very well put. Before I let you go,
Oh
Filippo,
no!
what would you like people to know about you? What would you like people to know about the impact that your Italian upbringing had on you?
Oh, I thought you were going to say, "What do you want on your tombstone?" I thought, "Oh my God, nobody's ever asked
Oh,
me."
you can add that last. Go ahead. Oh, I have. Well, I okay. Now you got me going. I had a friend who came to visit from I don't remember Kentucky, but I knew him from back in New Jersey, and he really, really wanted to go to the cemetery where Marilyn Monroe is here in Los
Oh
Angeles,
yeah.
right? So I took him there because you talked about tombstones. And it's so funny as you're driving by, there's Rodney Dangerfield. And it's like, there goes the neighborhood. They have all this fun stuff right on their tombstones. And I thought, what a great thing to do. Everybody sort of wrote something fun and interesting on their tombstone. Anyhow, for you, sure, you can add that last, but go ahead.
I forgot the question. Hold on. Oh, people. What do I want people to know about me?
Well, not just that, and also the impact your Italian upbringing has had on you.
Actually, great question. Thank you, Deborah. Very, very, very much. It's interesting. Not my finest hour, but I remember somebody who had studied psychology, was a psychologist, and I have a lot of respect for him and the industry. And he said, "How could you be a good life coach if you've never studied psychology?" I said, "Well, first of all, you don't know. I have studied psychology. I'm not a psychologist, but I have studied." And I said, but I knew I wouldn't have a comeback for him that would work. So I said, "How could you be a good life coach without knowing what it's like to stand in front of 6,000 people and hold them in the palm of your voice,
Hmm.
and then have them erupt in applause and stand up and give you a standing ovation, and then tell you their intimate stories in line afterwards? How could you know people?" And you don't have to have that experience, but in a sense we have experiences. Deborah, I'd love to interview you sometime, where I know that you have experiences that you can share from your Italian heritage, from your career, from your life, your relationships. We all have these stories inside of us that the more I think we share, like you've invited me to do here, the more we could all learn from each other, our sameness and our differences and our connectedness. Uh, so with the Italian heritage, the same things. I grew up in I was about to say I grew up in Sicily. Well, I thought it was Sicily, but it was northern central California. Um, but Sicilians especially, that land was conquered by so many other races and cultures who ended up staying after some people stayed. So those people are part of the mix. I mean, talk about a melting pot. That is a true melting pot that is existing for years and years and years. So something has been absorbed. Something is absorbed in the culture, in the way the words. There are so many Arabic words. There's so many. In the Sicilian language. So and words of it. So all of that, uh, and then the richness of what my parents shared with us from the culture, the music, and the tradition. And I used to dress up in an Italian dress. And gosh, I know I have to. Can I tell you a quick Italian story?
We have about a minute. Yeah, go ahead.
My brother went to school one day dressed up as a Sicilian.
Oh.
My parents didn't know at the time how to dress him up for Halloween. He was a little older than I was. And so they said, "Oh, it's Halloween, you're a Sicilian." And he went to school with his tambourine, and he came home crying. And he came home crying because all the other kids were Batman and Superman, and he was a Sicilian. And I thought, wow, as an adult. As a kid, I didn't understand, but as an adult, I thought back to that moment and I thought, had the teacher known to say, "Tell us about your costume," My brother
Right.
could have sung them songs and talked to them about food and talked to them about music and culture and history that he knew that was in this costume. And had that happened, I think the other kids would have gone home crying, saying, all I am is Superman like everybody else.
That was a beautiful story. That was everything. Filippo, that was incredible. You're such an interesting person. How can people get in touch with you? Where will you be appearing next? How can they find you?
Right now, we're doing the Life Changes show at home edition because of what's been going on. So lifechangeshow.com. There's so many interesting people like you there, and just great conversations like this. So meet me there. The book is The Little Dog That Could is available online, Amazon, and on our website. And Filippo Voltaggio, Voltaggio, oh, you probably have it here, but .com is where they could see a lot of my past singing stuff. That there will be more.
I hope so because it's beautiful. And as I said to you earlier, I don't even know if I said it on the program. When you look at all the work that you've done, I actually sent your bio to someone and I said, "Do you want to feel like you've like accomplished nothing? Read about this guy. It's just
No,
amazing."
no.
But but I meant it funny because you've just sort of experienced so much from your heart, right? So for that, we love you, Filippo. And you're right, as you would say in your own words, I am Filippo. You've done it well. You've done it well and you
My
continue to do
tombstone.
so. Your tomb. That's it. That's what's going on your tombstone. I just decided for you. There you go. Thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to getting together to having a coffee cappuccino with you because we don't live too far away. So thanks for joining us. We'll also have you down in Little Italy, Los Angeles, down in San Pedro. That'd be fantastic. So I appreciate you joining us for our Little Italy of LA podcast. Please look him up, Filippo Voltaggio. And thanks everybody for joining us. You can find our show on any and all podcast platforms, audio and video. I'm your host, Deborah Zara Kobylt. And